Good afternoon, collectors, and welcome to Leighton's Loft, our weekly podcast here. You can find us every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a full docket to discuss today, plus whatever's going on in the sports world, which, is a lot, right? Baseball has just started. I know you're not much of an NBA guy, Lou, but, they're starting to think about the playoffs, so, that buzz is in the air. Football, even though it's way off, just because I'm in New York because of what happened with Darnold, is really at the forefront of everyone's mind, or at least, mine.
I can't remember being this excited about a draft. I'm very excited about the draft, and it's not Patriots related. It's just an interesting first round. I just want to see how it all plays out.
I agree. Hey, J5, can you pull up the chat for me here on the computer? Thanks. It's going to be interesting. Now, Lou, what is the exact date of the NFL draft?
Oh, that's a damn good question. Is it? Do they start Thursday at the end of April, Thursday the 29th? I'm going to check that.
April 29th.
April 29th per Dougie.
April 29th, yeah. So round one is April 29th, and then they run through Saturday too, I think.
Very cool. There is also a what's up, Kev? Oh, nice. Loft in the White Sox. I like it. What's going on, Joseph? Afternoon, Bri, Todd, Lucas, and the rest of the gang. Thanks for joining us here on the Loft. Lots of fun hobby stuff to discuss. Hey, Ernie, how are you? Of course, lots of stuff going on as well in the sports world. And then, Dougie, we were about to get to it. Big event this weekend in wrestling.
That's right. Not
just because it's WrestleMania, but I also think, from what I was listening to on the radio, I was listening to Rosenberg interview Shane McMahon. Yep. They're really, it sounds like they're legit pumped because there's going to be 25,000 per day. And, let's be honest, other than living in Texas, or maybe parts of Florida, I guess, where they don't really care.
Yep.
Or it appears they don't, are not as concerned about COVID. That's a pretty large crowd for WrestleMania. So they said they're allowing in 25,000 per day, Saturday and Sunday.
Nice.
Very cool. Joseph says he'll be at WrestleMania on Sunday. That's awesome.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. Rosenberg said he was leaving, I think, on Friday morning.
Yeah, he does the pregame.
Yeah, that's cool.
I know.
Sounds like a good old time. I've never been to a WrestleMania, but I've been to one or two, WWF sanctioned events back in the day.
Yep.
And I'm fairly certain that I know we wouldn't have gone if Ultimate Warrior wasn't fighting, but I don't know if he fought that day for the Intercontinental Belt, but I'm pretty sure Ravishing Rick Rude fought that night. Mm-hmm. He might have fought Warrior. I'm not sure. But, definitely have fond memories of that. And so, gang, we're going to do something special today for WrestleMania in just a minute or two. Dougie is going to ask the community a question about wrestling. Oh. And first place prize today, instead of it being a random off, is going to be given to the person who gets the question correctly. Doug will answer that in just a few minutes. You do have to answer it correctly on Leighton's Loft Facebook page. So that way it's just easier for you, Dougie, to keep track.
Yep.
The person who gets the question correctly, Lou, is going to get first place today on Leighton's Loft. We typically give away 7 prizes during our show.
Okay,
well,
great.
First place today, Lou, is going to be a full pack of 1985 WWF wrestling, which, by the way, is not a cheap pack. And because it's a small set, as Dougie just said, collaborated on before I came on, he got a decent chance of pulling a Hogan. They're not just the number 1 card, but there's several Hogan cards in the set. So I just figured it'd be apropos to open a 1985 WWF wrestling pack here live today from the Loft, being held at the 459.
Very nice.
So, Dougie, if you want to just jot it down, the other 6 prizes after the pack will be a 1968 baseball set break spot, and then 5 1973s. And for folks that are interested in our set breaks but never really bought into one, we had 2 last night at 8 o'clock. We also have a bunch on our site, baseball, basketball. I'm not sure if we have football in stock at the moment. I still think we have a 79 as well. But it does allow you, of course, not only have a chance to win a free spot today by tuning into our show and participating here on Leighton's Loft, our weekly show starting at 4:30 on Wednesdays. But it also allows you to, have a chance at, pulling maybe a card from a set you wouldn't normally buy.
Yep.
A set break spot in. So, and of course, if you end up getting first place, even if you're not a wrestling fan, generally most folks are fans of money. And so if you end up getting the wrestling pack and you pull some, Hogan's in high grade, they're going for really good money these days.
Oh, and why not? Hulk was an icon.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. So super excited about that prize today and opening the pack here live on the show. So Dougie, you let me know when we're ready, because I'd like to ask the question, establish a winner, and then shortly thereafter we'll open up the pack for them.
Sure.
I think it'll make great content. So before we get to that, speaking of Topps and 85 WWF, Topps was in the news this past week.
Yeah.
They are now going public again in a SPAC deal, and I'm not going to pretend that I know what it is. I could regurgitate it to you, but I'm not in the finance world. And so perfect timing there, Rob. I do know that people have had, various feedback about Topps going public, in the sense of, hey, does that mean that they're going to ramp up the presses?
Yeah.
What does it mean to basically Joe Average Collector? And so we were going to talk about that just for a minute or two before we do our wrestling, trivia question for today. So my take on it, Lou, is, a few angles. And the first is, hey, it doesn't really matter if you're in baseball cards, diapers, or jewelry, or anything in between. If you're a public company, you got to produce numbers. I know that much from going to business school at Rutgers College, from learning a little bit about public companies and such, and my limited experience, since then. So, in regards to, Topps and i.e. reaching numbers, I do believe that it could be a combination of they're going to produce more product, meaning volume, more actual units, but I believe that they're also going to come out with more product in their product line.
Yep.
So instead of having 11 products, they might have 27, because ultimately that 27 products will yield more volume in terms of dollars of sales, thus more margin hitting their bottom line, i.e. a public company.
Mm-hmm.
However, and I know a lot of people think that's bad, and I'm not saying that is good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it is. One of the things that I've heard, Dougie, Lou, and the rest of the gang that's tuned in here today on Leighton's Loft, not just for the last several months, but really for the last couple of years, is the inability for folks to get retail product. So hopefully if they produce more, there'll be an easier time for folks to be able to get some retail product in their hands, if that's, what you desire. I saw that as well, Rob, that 35% of their sales are from their confectionery line, but business is business. So they're going to try to grow that 35% of their candy business. They're going to try to grow the rest of their business as well. When you go public, I believe they'll leave no stone unturned.
Now, Rob brings up the point. This is my first question on this, because when I heard this news, I'm thinking to myself, there's tremendous growth in the hobby, but I'm not sure the card manufacturer is the place where the growth is going to be, because obviously vintage and value and scarcity and things like that. But with the whole electronic frontier of the collecting of the hobby, is that where the growth is seen in a company like Topps?
So it's interesting, Lou. That's what I was going to mention next. So as far as NFTs go, as far as on demand, as far as maybe mixing the physical and the digital, in that world, meaning in the card world, I think that there's a lot of potential. And I feel like, if I had to close my eyes and just take a guess, right, I'm going to, of course, just make these numbers up. But if they think, Lou, that today the NFT market in baseball cards is X, right?
Right.
Topps or management might think it could be worth 300x or 500x in 2 years. So it could, in their mind, listen, these folks who do this stuff, they're generally pretty smart. They might just be like, hey, wow, we're buying Topps with really cheap money. It's a $5 billion company, and it only got valued at 1.3.
Yeah.
And because of these electronic, things that are going to play out, over the next couple of years.
If for no reason other than the digital part of this is minutes old, it's in its infancy. There's tremendous amount of growth here.
Yeah, and shout out to Kenny who's on YouTube. Hey, YouTubers, guys, come on over to Leighton's Loft on Facebook if you want to win. So Kenny's mentioning, and I love this, Topps is absolutely getting into more genres. Tennis, volleyball, Star Wars living. Like, whoever thought they were going to take something which, and listen, if you're watching and you thought Star Wars was real, I'm sorry to break your heart. But to take something like that, which, let's be honest, right? Yes, they're making movies and they're rejuvenating the franchise, but like, Jesus criminy, man, they're issuing cards as if these folks are freaking athletes. And I'm not saying that like I'm mad. I'm saying kudos to fucking Topps.
Yeah.
Like, that's an incredible. So per Kenny, whether it be it's Topps Project 70 or other things that they're going to do, listen, you're not going to nail it on all of them. But I just know that in business, it takes money to do things. It takes good human capital to accomplish things. And then, of course, resources, which is a combination thereof of the human capital, of your money, of your resources, and then, of course, all the intangibles. And so I just think from a Topps standpoint, like, growing up, it was like motherhood apple pie and Topps baseball cards. So, we could look at this $1.3 billion valuation. I'm no stock guru. I'm just saying that you could look at it and say, wow, this could be a $3 to $5 billion company in a few years just because of all the untapped potential.
Yeah, and part of that, you just touched on some of the untapped potential, it would seem to me, is sports aside, there's got to be a lot of potential growth in other areas. If it's esports, if it's TV, if it's music. There's so much interest by people about things and people love to collect cards about other things, non-sports cards. There's got to be a lot of growth in that area, I would think.
Hey, what's up, Bill? What's going on, Jeremy, Chris, Orlando, Moss, Nick, Mike? Thanks for joining us today on Leighton's Loft. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel so you'll be notified each and every time we go live, and give us a little like, a little love. We appreciate it. Moss, we talked about that last week. We will talk about that a little bit later in the show today. Love me some Harry and the Hendersons, man. Are you kidding me? Alf. Topps made some really good cards.
Is there a Marvel Universe set at this point? How big are those movies right now? And of course, the time to do it would have been 2 years ago. But
all those different, different Black Panther, they all generally have something around the set produced. So not just T-shirts, but you're talking about some sort of trading cards. It does depend. I don't know that it's Topps in every case.
Yep.
There are other companies that partake in the non-sport card market. But in general, I think you're going to see more UFC stuff, more soccer, which Topps has been all over the last 12 months or so. What's going on, Ricky? So it's going to be interesting at the very least to see some of the innovation. And listen, buyer beware, right? If we're talking about a show today, I certainly cannot tell you for sure that we think they're going to produce more. Maybe you don't have to put away a Topps set, your factory set every year for your kid, because they're going to make 3 trillion of them. Who knows?
Right.
Before we move on from Topps, I figured now would be a good time, Dougie. Do you have a question ready?
Sure do.
So before we ask it now, Dougie, do you ask it verbally? Do you put it into the chat? What's the best way to do this?
Usually do it verbally.
All right. Well, give me the wrestling pack so that I can show them what's at stake. And then while waiting for that, Lou, not sure if you're a golf fan, but we got some golf going on this weekend as well.
No, everyone's interested because it's the Masters, right? It's a big
of
week.
course.
It's one of those transcending events. You're not a golf fan, maybe, but you watch the Masters.
Now, Lou, do you think they're going to have, or are they going to have spectators at the Masters this weekend? I don't know.
Oh, I don't know offhand. I would assume they could. Why wouldn't they be able to have some?
I would think some, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what's at stake here. Thanks. 1985 wrestling has shot up in price the last couple of years. The Hulk Hogan card in PSA 9 went from, being nothing to now being, I don't know, it might be worth north of 1,000. A PSA 10 sold for 18,000 within recent time, maybe within the last 60 days or so. Mm-hmm. And it's a small set. So you have a nice chance of getting a Hogan here. All right. Without further ado, if you want to win this 1985 WWF pack, the only chance you have is to answer Dougie's question correctly and be the first one to do so on Leighton's Loft Facebook page only.
All right, so let's give everyone a minute to get over there.
All right, guys.
Wait, hold on, Dougie. I agree with Lou. He's giving everyone a minute or two to move on over if they'd like.
All right, so let me know when.
Everyone head on over to the Leighton's Loft page because those comments are the only one that Doug is looking at for replies to this question.
I like Topps now, but I don't like buying all of them. I just like that they come out with some cool stuff, and you can pick and choose what you like for a very inconsequential amount of money. I think that's what's cool about Topps now. And they also, if you're a soccer person, they don't produce a ton, but they have some Topps now soccer rookies that come out that turn out to be good investments. My buddy Chris Gilmore has turned me on to them and done quite well, for ourselves here with those. All right, Dougie, hit us with the 1985 Topps WWF wrestling pack is on the line. Whoever answers the wrestling question trivia question first today on the show. What's up, Chef? Will be the winner of the grand prize on Leighton's Loft today. Good luck, everybody.
All right, guys. First person on my screen on the Facebook. Again, your streams are different. All right, guys. In WrestleMania 2, it was held in 3 different locations. So the Chicago part, there was a 20-man NFL and WWF Battle Royal, which featured 10 wrestlers and 10 football players. Who was the last football player from the NFL that was eliminated before, of course, Andre the Giant won the Battle Royal? So who was the last football player from the NFL in this Battle Royal to be the one last standing of the players? That is my question.
That is a great question.
It's a great question, Lou.
It is a great question.
It wasn't Refrigerator Perry. He was second.
I would have guessed the fridge. The fridge is
not
no.
Bill Fralick. It was not Jim Covert.
LT?
No, he wasn't even in it.
Okay.
WrestleMania has to do this again. I want to see that.
No.
Are you kidding me? But this is what they should do. You should have like 10 breakers be in it, like 10 auctioneers be in it, and you have like a card battle royale.
Nice.
No, Mark Gastineau wasn't in it. Brian Bosworth was not in it. Nope, Jim Covert was actually the first one eliminated from the football players.
Interesting.
Nope, not Randy White.
Let's get the order.
Harvey Martin was eliminated third. All right, guys. This guy was Ernie Holmes was early. This guy played for the 49ers and the Patriots.
Interesting.
Oh, God.
Yes, Kenny Oz got it right. It was Russ Francis.
Really?
Russ
That's not an easy question, Dougie.
Thank you.
Well, you know what? He had the mustache, so
Russ Francis. You're right. He was a Patriot, and I forgot he was in the Niners.
Patriot and Niner at the time of the Battle Royal.
he had the Magnum mustache, so that probably helped.
Well, if you said Kenny won it, right?
Yes.
Well, Kenny happens to be
a
huge wrestling fan. So kudos to you, Kenny. We're going to bust that open right now.
Chris Coe had it.
He did?
Yeah, he had it. He didn't have it in time, but he had it.
It was a good question.
Excellent question.
All right, Kenny. Let's get down to a little WWF for you right now. Thanks for tuning in today, folks. This is the kind of fun we like to have here with the VB community.
I have an excellent trivia question for our next trivia question opportunity.
Excellent. I like to hear that, Lou. We got them lined up. Doug took this one very seriously, especially wrestling. He's,
Yep.
That's his thing. I mean, I like wrestling too.
Mine's a Seinfeld trivia question. I watched most of the series the last 3 weeks. Just went through the end of the series.
Oh, really? I love Seinfeld trivia.
And pulled out a trivia question I think is good. I'm guessing the fans out there might know it pretty easily, but.
All right, George, this guy, I'm sorry.
Oh.
He just...
Let me put it up here. Hang on.
He is just savage. Between the hair, which is just totally unkempt and insanely disgusting.
Yep.
And he has a freaking blue tongue. Fury of the Animal. I'm placing a bounty. I will pay $100 for any PSA 10. I want one for my collection. Fury of the Animal.
Nice.
That's how I wake up in the morning.
Our buddy Joe Gatto is here. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Joe, what's going on? From scratch?
Yep.
He still owes you grape sweet fish.
From scratch.
That's right.
From scratch. He's going to make.
You mean Freddie Blassie is a better dresser than me? Jesse the Body Ventura. He was awesome for the WWF.
Yep. Oh, he was great. This is my era. I love this era. So I'm going to reveal a little bit too much about myself here. At the end of the night, sometimes I like to go to Pluto and I like to go to the Baywatch channel and watch a couple episodes of Baywatch.
Oh, I love it.
And a couple nights ago, who shows up on this episode of Baywatch but Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage?
That's fantastic.
And they're working out on the beach, and Randy's got his ski goggles on and his bandana. And, oh, it was so cool.
So, folks, I saw a couple Seinfeld, support in the chat. Lou,
Yes.
next week, because you know I'm a Seinfeld big fan.
Yep.
I've gone to a number of his shows. I got a signed baseball, which I got for my collection,
nice.
which wasn't easy to get, single signed. So next week, Lou, we're gonna have a Seinfeld trivia question giveaway. No pressure.
Okay.
For a $50 break credit.
All right. No problem.
And it's going to be given away on the Loft. But we should do something fun like, hey, if you don't get it in 5 minutes, you owe Lou $50.
I like that. Well, I'm going to come up with a different question then.
Yeah. Oh, man, this is a bad man. The JYD. I love Junkyard Dog.
Ah, Junkyard Dog, yeah. Chris Coe is in Seinfeld for sure.
Oh, I mean, first of all, who doesn't want to win $50?
Yep.
But, Seinfeld trivia is just great. I was I'm going to talk about it in a minute. I was in the city on Monday for business. And, back several years ago, before COVID and you could do stuff, there was a Seinfeld trivia night. And, man, I thought I knew a lot about Seinfeld. It was like I did, but people knew it before they finished the question. I'm like, guy, give me a
chance.
This is
like I'm 3 beers deep. Like you came here and you're taking it seriously, like you're training for it.
Right?
And I'm just trying to have a good old time.
This is the thing. I think this is a great question because I didn't know it. And when it came up, I went, oh my God, I didn't know that. That'll be a great trivia question for the Loft. But I'm guessing somebody out there I'm guessing several people out there know it. I can't tell whether it's a good question or not.
So Kenny, you're getting some nice star power here. You got the Iron Sheik.
Jeez.
By the way, Kenny is putting everyone on notice. He says, I'm totally in for the Seinfeld trivia. There's a bar here that does it. And I've won several times.
Okay.
And if you look at his picture, I don't think Kenny's kidding.
No.
Man, I hope to meet some of you guys at the National. I really hope that it does happen, but I'm not, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
I love this era of WWF. The only thing I liked better was The Rock. And I did like The Rock when he came along later, but this era was the best.
Lou, we got a Hulk Hogan rookie sticker.
Ugh.
Kenny, you're doing A-OK today. Congratulations.
Kenny says he's watched every WrestleMania live. Every WrestleMania there was.
That's pretty cool.
George
the Animal Steel by himself. This might be a 10. This a little bit of wear in the upper left. I can't tell. This is a really nice card. In terms of condition, I can't say that I approve of the Steel's, excessive body hair.
That's part of the brand, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Tyler, we do go to the Philly show. I'm also going to be buying at the Chantilly show. I don't think we'll be setting up at Chantilly. Well, I don't know if we're going to be setting up anywhere in the near future, but I will be going to the Chantilly show, and I will be going down to the Philly show. I believe it's in June.
Iron Sheik, the guy who got busted while traveling with his arch rival Bob the Hacksaw Duggan, busted because they traveled together or something?
I'm not sure. See, Scott's smart. Scott Priestley said that his wife has seen every Seinfeld episode no less than 20 times, so she'll be joining me next week on the Loft. See, that's why I figured, Lou, if we tell everyone now, if you weren't sure if you're going to tune in next week, but you feel like you're a Seinfeld guru, you're probably going to tune in.
I'll come up with some more then. But
Lou, we should have a little a real Seinfeld meeting for the episode.
This is what you've done to my life because again, when my girlfriend and I have been watching Seinfeld for the last 2 or 3 weeks. We just went
So
through
great.
all 9 seasons.
That's so great.
And it's brilliant, by the way. It's
Yeah,
still
it is.
stands up, and it was just brilliant end to end. But as soon as this thing happened, my first thought in my head was that would be a great trivia question for the Loft, right there.
Paul, I think it's Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful. Yep.
All right, so I've told you this before, but I actually dated a woman who also dated Hacksaw Duggan at that point.
You did tell us before, but today is a great time to bring it up. So
Yeah.
were you before or after Hacksaw?
Well, I was after. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
Did she have any stories for you?
In college, none I can repeat, but yes. They dated when he was in college, and I think she was there too, but I'm not sure.
I was going to ask something, and then I just realized I heard Carton talking to Evan today on the fan.
Yeah.
And he went through this whole bit where he's like, I don't think I should ask that. And then Evan's like, normally I don't really care. Like, it's good for radio. He's like, dude, you're worrying me. Please don't ask it. So I'm just going to refrain. Face to the canvas. Mr. Fuji was nasty.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Fuji. All right. And then going for the pin,
okay.
Tito Santana.
Wrestlers with drugs? Who would have thought that?
We got to ask Hacksaw. We got to get him. He would do it in a minute. He'd probably join us for like a couple beers, if I told him.
I bet you could get some vintage break experiences with wrestlers. I bet they're.
Oh, are you kidding me? We were going to go gung-ho after the Dragon, and then there's like a little thing called COVID, and you couldn't go anywhere. And so here's the deal. Like, I don't actually know how to get in touch with any of the wrestlers. So part of the magic of the conventions was, like, you go over to the corner and you see, like, oh, Ricky the Dragon set up next to the guy from the toy. Like, you never know. Next to Icky Woods. I know he was. Icky Shuffle was there.
Thank you, Andy, by the way. I appreciate that vote of confidence.
All right, so that is our 1985 free wrestling pack for Kenny Oz. Here's your big hit. I mean, you got some nice cards in general, but the big one, value-wise, definitely is the Hogan number. Excuse me, this is number 1. Yeah, the first number 1 Hogan sticker.
Nice.
Congrats, Kenny.
We have to do wrestling more often.
Yeah, no, it was fun. Here you go, Dougie. So that is the pack for Kenny. If you can put that away. So something else I wanted to discuss today was only because someone had asked me about it. Lou, I just clicked back, so I don't know if you can. Great. Was when you're going to, whether it be sell something or whether it be you're going to consign something to an auction house. Get comfortable here. We got some time to chat. Folks are asking me kind of like the tricks of the trade, or how do you get the best money for your card if you're going to sell a private, Lou, or if you're going to consign to an auction house? How do you get them to give you the best rate? And so I feel like the easy answer is just to be as direct as I can, and is with a little bit of work. And so, for example, if you have a card that you want to sell through an auction house, you can consider there's a few different data points that you have to worry about. You want to worry about how much you're going to pay in commission.
Right.
You want to worry about, is there going to be a reserve on my item? You want to worry about, because not every now auction houses, even that do catalogs, some of them do auctions that don't have a catalog, and some of them do have a catalog. So you want to consider, is there going to be a catalog with my auction, or is it just going to be on the internet? Then you also want, and by the way, Lou, I'm not writing this down, so hopefully we'll have someone who's going to give us the notes later, because I think this is good stuff. Yep. Then the next thing you want to worry about, Lou, is there going to be another one of the same items in that auction?
Oh, good point. Yeah.
So, and by the way, folks, all of this and none of this is in your control. What I mean is, if you ask no questions, what I can guarantee you is you'll pay full freight and you'll get the least amount of service for your money.
Yep. That
I can guarantee you.
I was going to ask you, I thought it would be your option to have a reserve on a card or not, but you have to ask for it, right?
You gotta, sometimes you don't think you got to ask. I'm just saying that because I was talking to, a friend the other day about a similar situation, and he was asking me a lot of questions, and I thought that it would make good content for the show today.
Yep.
Because, much like the trading card therapy that we're going to be maybe, offering out advice on in the future. This really is something that every individual, whether it be now or in their, collecting future, may face. And it could be because you simply just want to sell some extra stuff.
Right.
It could be because you want to capitalize on a hot market. It could be because you have something the auction house really wants badly, like an item, meaning a card or a piece of memorabilia, but then you have 10 other items that you're like, wow, without this item, they're not really going to take my items on consignment. But if I give them 11 items and the one's great, they might now take all 11 items. So also something else to consider, for folks that when you're consigning to an auction house, if you have some, let's say, 2 piles of material, desirable and less desirable, well, maybe try to give a few lots or a few items of the less desirable to that very auction house if you're giving them some of the more desirable stuff. Something else to consider, even though most of the contracts will be standard, you can make special arrangements when you're going to get paid. I mean, I guarantee you the contract says, we'll pay you in such and such date or sooner. Sure, you can negotiate in advance for your item. You can negotiate to be paid within 7 days of the auction. By the way, I'm not suggesting when I say negotiate, that you bring up a question, you ask them, and they say yes. Because it's not that easy. But what I can tell you is that if you call 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of the best auction houses that there are, they'll find out pretty quickly if you're full of it or not. My point is that you'll get to a decent enough person. Because that's another thing, too. People always ask me, it's a little bit different when you're selling something to someone. Like we all know J5 is definitely paying the least. I pay more than him. So you want to deal with me when it comes to selling to just collect.
Nice.
But like with an auction house, some people feel like, for example, with, REA, like you got to talk to Brian Dwyer. Or if you consign a Heritage, like you got to talk to Chris Ivey. And by the way, these guys are friends of mine. They're going to tell you like, Leighton, why do you think I have a payroll?
Yeah.
I have people that are here. They're authorized to execute X, Y, and Z. Now, if you're asking them for a $900,000 advance and your stuff's worth 10 grand, well, not only you're going to be denied, it doesn't matter who you talk to. They're going to right across the side of the head.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm just saying that, in regards to the auctions.
Well, some people have to talk to the manager, right? And some people don't.
Exactly. Oh, my God. Totally. Yeah. I'm just saying that, like, just because you want to consign some stuff, I'm reading something about Rosenberg, and it's hard to read everything at once. There we go. Thanks.
Yeah. Ben says Peter Rosenberg and the MK show is big into wrestling and works for the WWE. He also just started collecting cards and shows them from time to time on the show. Thanks,
Ben. Yeah, I've actually been in connection with Pete, so I appreciate it. But we're hoping to, right, fingers crossed, we're gonna get a little love, a little shout out from WrestleMania this weekend. We sent Peter a little wrestling care package.
Oh, nice.
That we thought timing wise, Lou, I am nice, but timing wise, we thought this weekend would be the weekend.
Nice and smart.
Yeah, exactly. Like next week if I saw him, he's like, if you could have given me this wrestling stuff before I went down to WrestleMania, so that's why I didn't want to be pushy with him, but I said, hey, just wanted to let you know, like I got this stuff. If you want some stuff, happy to send it.
All right, let me ask you about the auction house now, because you started this conversation. The first thing you mentioned to look for is consignment. And I wasn't under the impression that consignment was negotiable. I mean, I imagine if you have a $1.3 million card you want to talk about, you can negotiate consignment fee. But can the average Joe negotiate consignment fee?
Sure. Well, to be fair, right? Like, who are you defining as the average Joe? And what I mean is that I think, depending on the auction house, if they're smart, if I'm working for the auction house, I can tell you what I would do. Let's say you contact me and you got 5 really regular items, and I say to you, "Here's my commission," and the individual says to me, "Well, can you do better on the rate?" Maybe I just say no right away.
Right.
But I might say is, "Tell me about the rest of your collection." And so, to be fair, right? If they're a good bullshit artist, they might just tell me about 37 items that they don't own. And then as the associate working for the auction house, you got to know if they're telling you the truth. And then the other side, you don't want to listen, it's a small, like a cottage type industry. You as the consignor, you don't want to get this reputation as,
right,
well, you know what, when this guy calls, no one really wants to talk to you. Because I worked at Leland's all those years ago. I feel like an old man. I'm not going to name any names. Let's just say auction houses are people too.
Yeah.
So they know if someone's calling for the 39th time to ask if there's been any price change since 11 a.m. this morning.
Yeah.
Now, you might think like that doesn't happen anymore. Oh, but you're wrong. It does. Now, it may happen less frequently, but, much in the way that like people say to us, hey, I don't have a computer. I don't have one near me. Oh, no problem. Like, just go to the local store. They'll be able to help you with a phone,
Yep.
like take some pictures. Like, you can get it done. So the point is like, yes, they're phasing out, giving updates, but without exaggeration, I mean, back in the day, at least, this is, 15 years ago to 17 years ago, guys would call. They called 11 a.m., 2 p.m. They'd ask for an update on the auction prices that they were interested in. And, I'll be honest, sometimes I couldn't bite my tongue. I'll just say, Mr. Smith. So, Mr. Smith, the auction doesn't end for 4 more days.
Yeah.
So, like, just do me a favor. Like, take the day off. Call me tomorrow. Right? And, like, this is the kind of humor I try to have because you got nothing else.
Yep.
So, but that's my 2 cents on the auction houses when it comes to consignment. Some auction houses do purchase outright. Others don't. But I would say for the most part, if it was me, I would look at auction houses as a vehicle to sell my goods on consignment. Because frankly, I'm sorry, go ahead, Lou.
When do you choose the auction house over, say, eBay?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So when this is, forget about eBay. To me, you choose an auction house for a few reasons. One of them is for ease of use. So for example, you're saying eBay, right?
Yeah.
Like I was going to start off, to me, the absolute number one reason why to use an auction house, when I say auction house, a major sports auction house with a catalog for their auction. That's what I'm referring to. You want to have a unique, not one of a kind, but a unique special item that is not available on eBay at Buy It Now. You don't see 3 of them at every card show. You haven't been offered one for sale, in the last month. And of course, some of this stuff I'm trying to be facetious and have some fun. Other stuff I am being sincere. But you don't want to go with a run-of-the-mill item. This is what I told people back in the day, and I'm going to tell you more than ever it holds true. If you sell run-of-the-mill stuff in an auction house, you're going to get run-of-the-mill pricing. Mm-hmm. Just to be clear, run-of-the-mill pricing doesn't mean good pricing. It means run-of-the-mill pricing. So you might have some items because they're real easy to find and no one really cares about buying them at an auction. You're like, how the hell did my item sell for less than it goes for on eBay?
Yeah,
I'll tell you why. Because it was the wrong place for it. It wasn't supposed to be sold in the auction. But for whatever reason or another, you thought it would look cool in the catalog. The auctioneer is like, hey, it's an extra lot from my auction. I'll earn an extra 16 cents, in commission or, whatever the case is. But I do want to get back to the first one, which is for kind of like that one-stop solution. So, one nice thing about the auction house is even if you have run-of-the-mill stuff, at least if you're going to deal with an auction house, some people, not only do they not like eBay, there really isn't that many eBay consignment sellers. Mm-hmm. There's actually far more auction house consignment sellers in the sports space than there are eBay consignment auction sellers. I'm not putting eBay above or below the auction houses. I'm merely saying you actually have more choices. So if you don't like what you heard about PWCC or Probstein, yes, there are some other much smaller eBay auction companies that you could seek out. But I personally would go with a bigger auction company, meaning on eBay, that was doing constant, business. So that way I know my stuff would be sold pretty soon and I might get a decent price for it. But when it comes back to the auction house, it really comes down to, like I said, trying to match the auction house. Like if they specialize in vintage, well, don't give them your, 1998 Dirk Nowitzki 1-of-1 or your Luka card, right? And if they're known for modern, well, then yeah, if you don't understand why you didn't get good money for your T206 Ty Cobb, like you got to check in with people. And by the way, don't be shy. In our Vintage Breaks Buy Sell Trade group, hit me up direct, Leighton@justcollect.com. I mean, this is, believe me, plenty of people bother me every day in the sense of ask me advice. They feel like they're bothering me. The reality of it is I love what I do. And I'm happy and very fortunate to be in a space that's become as hot as it is. And I didn't realize that some of this knowledge I'm sitting on as far as like dealing with auction houses that I think is like, everyone knows, apparently is news to a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're just doing it so often, it seems rote to you. It seems, that's the world, that's the water you swim in. But for a lot of people, they don't get a lot of shots at this.
Yes. I'm just looking at some of the comments here. James is asking, Beckett does still grade Star Jordans. So that's where you want to go with your Star basketballs with Beckett. But, getting back to the auction houses, just to, finish it up, it is all negotiable, but understand they're very sharp.
Yeah.
So if you go to them with a batch of run-of-the-mill stuff, you are going to run the risk of turning them off. And I know that might not sound like a big deal, but the reality of it is, if you like the space, just be respectful. Be very honest about what you're trying to do. Hey, I'm trying to liquidate a portion of my collection. You don't have to tell them why. That's none of their business. And I'm thinking about doing it. And by the way, you should add this. This is helpful not just to the auctioneer, but to yourself, because you're going to help. You're gonna basically move to the front of the line or closer to the front of the line when you say to them, I'm thinking about selling a portion of my collection. I'm making it up, $50,000. You'd like to have a number so they know what they're talking about in terms of commissions, right? So they can do the math real fast. And I'm thinking about making a decision in the next 2 months, the next 60 days. Oh, okay, great. Now all of a sudden you've got their attention. And even if you sell in 90 days or you don't sell, it's still okay. But I'm just speaking from experience. Lots of people, I mean, Sam, how many people a day are contacting us to sell? I mean, without exaggeration, I mean, we're up to dozens a day between emails and phone calls. And so we just, we don't pull any punches professionally and very nicely. Hey, great stuff. Are you thinking about kind of like selling soon? Yeah. Oh, no, Sonny, I'm never going to sell. It's going to go to my grandson, and he's actually not going to be allowed to sell either because, it's going to be in a vault in, a different country. And my point is we'd still help you.
Yeah.
But yes, we were not going to be able to value all of your cards because you're not selling them. And so we're happy to give you an estimate on a few of them. My point is the same thing with the auction house. Just be considerate. Don't dangle these carrots if you're really never going to sell anything, because you're just going to get a bad rep and then people won't call you back. And, you don't want that.
I would think one of the things with auction houses to save everybody time and heartache is to understand that they're professionals. They've seen it all. They've heard it all. Just play straight with them. And I imagine they'll play straight with you too.
Yep, absolutely. So that was my my little shtick on auction houses. I don't know anything about hybrid grading, Brian. Is that a company, hybrid grading?
I don't know.
But I did want to talk about cost averaging when it comes to buying. And hey, listen, once again, it may be, of course, Leighton, it's very obvious what you're saying, but if it's not, and there's a little bit of some knowledge in there that you enjoy, I'm happy to share. So something I started doing several years ago, I find myself doing even more of it for vintage breaks than just collect these days, but I will do it for both companies and of course for myself, is the idea of cost averaging. And people talk about this in stocks, so it's probably not going to be, that foreign, to people if you've heard that terminology before.
Hybrid grading is HGA.
Oh, HGA. Yeah, I don't know much about HGA. Seems cool. I like the colors, but no, I don't really know much about them. I'll certainly, do a little bit more research. I'm thinking about sending my own card. So as soon as I decide where to send some bulk, I will. I don't know if you wanted to finish up talking about grading or, what direction we want to move in for the last few minutes. I was looking at what time it is, Lou. I got about 10 minutes left. You think that we should talk about cost averaging? My take.
Well, that's something we can always pick it up in a later episode. But yeah, let's talk about it a little bit, because that's a principle where many of us are aware of in terms of buying stocks. But how does it apply to the card industry?
Sure. So basically, when it comes to, let's say, buying maybe a box or a rookie card, even though, of course, I want to get the cheapest every single time, cards do not work like stocks in the sense of, forget about it's an imperfect market. There's not even that much quantity sometimes if you're a buyer for you to buy all the quantity you'd be willing to suck up. So something important to keep in mind, the cost average, don't beat yourself up. If you're looking to acquire said rookie or said wax box or case, and there's only 2 available, and you're like, I just bought the last one for X. Yeah, but if you think it's going to be worth 3.5X, don't beat yourself up about paying 10% more. Just buy it. And I'll tell you, ever since I started doing that, 2 things have happened. A, I started sleeping better because I'm no longer just trying. Well, be honest. I'm no longer trying to get just the best price. Of course I want the best price, but it's not like it doesn't, if I don't get the best price and I still get a fair price, I'm okay with that. And then two, I'm able to acquire material and quantity now a little bit easier because I'm less rigid and I understand what it takes to acquire material.
Yeah, it's some of us are like that in certain areas. It's like, for example, me buying gas. You know, I'll see gas. I'll be going by the gas station. It's 10 cents more a gallon than when I normally get it, and it will just bug the hell out of me. And I'll keep driving. You know, but it's silly. You know,
no, listen, but that's what I
cent
mean is, you know, Lou, I'd be putting in offers on stuff on eBay,
yeah,
because I just wanted to buy all of it, and I wake up in the morning and like 3 of them expired, 1 of them were sold. One of them, this guy's got a story about how it's his mom's house. Is it okay if he ships it in 2 weeks? And I'm like, you know what? I should have just bought them all.
Yep.
I would have already been done. Yes, I would have paid 13% more, but like I would have moved on. And so that was kind of one of the last things I was going to, you know, close with today. If we have some other time, we'll cover some stuff. Hey, what's up, Mike Russo? I hope all is well. Yeah, I'd love to have you on to talk about HGA grading for the next episode. You know, he's saying it's a gimmick. I don't know if it is or it isn't, but I'd love to hear people's, you know, feedback and stuff. But you know, that was kind of my, you know, my shtick on, you know, cost averaging is don't be afraid if you want to acquire something in the card space in quantity to be just cost averaging. Keep in mind, bringing in more of it because it's not going to act perfectly. You're not going to just be able to buy 100 every day you want. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, you get a good buy on one set or one pack, and then you see the pack 10% more the next time. And some people get really aggravated about doing that. And by the way, sometimes I am that person, so I'm not casting aspersions. But let it go. Pay a little extra 10%.
Absolutely. So I did want to cover. I took a trip to New York City on Monday. You know, in the last year, I can count how many times I've been in New York City on one hand.
Really?
Yeah, well, you know, because of COVID and stuff.
Oh, sure.
Used to go all the time. But you know, this particular Monday had to go in and drop off some boxes for a buddy of mine, Mark Zablo, and the team at Bleecker Trading in the city.
Yeah.
And he's got a cool little you know, store there. He's even talking about maybe he'd like me to host some trade nights on like a Saturday night when things get back and rocking. And I said, as long as you have good food, man, because I used to live down the street from there in the Village.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not exaggerating, and I'm proud to say this because I certainly haven't splurged. So I went to Minetta Tavern around the corner for a burger. It was a $42 hamburger.
Holy cow.
Yeah. It's very good. It's beyond good. I ate it like a complete savage.
No pun intended, but holy cow.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money for a burger.
It is, but the sushi place I really wanted to go to that was down the street, Tomo, was closed on Monday. I'm saying I'm obviously I became a food snob from living in the Village. And my buddy was like, apparently they know the guy who owns John's Pizza. And he's like, Leighton, I thought you really love pizza. I said, I do. But like today, my belly can't hold all the, so like, it's not on the agenda.
All right. Well, let me ask the question. It was a
Sure.
$42 burger, but was it a $42 burger?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd have it tonight if I could.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, I probably shouldn't have another, you know, big red meat hamburger within a few days of having the other one.
Yeah.
But if that didn't matter, yes, I would have one tonight, Lou.
Are you familiar with the BuzzFeed series? Is it worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, I love that show. And I love questions like that.
Oh yeah. And it's funny because I hadn't been there in so long.
Yeah.
And I know, like, for example, I don't know how you like your burger, right? But
Oh,
like,
rare.
so here's the deal. I'll eat a burger medium rare. Like, I'm not going to not eat it.
Right.
But I'm probably a little bit closer to medium, I would say.
Okay.
However, I understand meat.
Yep.
So when I went there, I hadn't been there in a while. I said, sir, it's a beautiful day outside. I mean, I just couldn't be any happier. Doing some card business and eating a $40 hamburger in New York City, and having a good old time. I said, what do you recommend? He goes through his whole little shtick. So I said, I just want to make sure I'm hearing you, yes, Tyler, properly. That sounds like what you're saying is if you don't care how it's cooked, you'd go with medium rare. And he said, yes. I said, medium rare it is.
Yep.
Oh, my God. It was so good. So anyway, getting back to Bleecker Trading, it's really cool. It was down. I used to live on the corner of Thompson and Bleecker, 184 Thompson Street in the Village. No, I did not go to NYU, but I did dream about it. And you know, all that kind of good stuff. You know, that being said, Mark's Place, Bleecker Trading, is closer to Magnolia Bakery on like the other side of 7th Ave, away from John's Pizza.
Yeah.
But it's such a great spot. I was telling Jules when I got home that night. So Lou, at that time when I was living in the city, before I moved out, two things happened that were important. Well, a bunch of things. One, I started dating Julie.
Okay.
And then two, I left Leland's to start Just Collect.
Yep.
And this is how we knew like the city, my days were numbered. So I remember living in the city, and Julie at the time was not my wife. So Sam, she's like, wow, you must be doing pretty well. Like, how do you afford living here? You know, and like, you're going to run your business out of here? I said, well, you know, not forever.
Yeah.
Just like until I can't do it anymore. So I don't know at that point if I gave her a key to the apartment or not. But like, I came back from like playing hoops or something, and I look up, I'm like, what the fuck happened in my cupboard? And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, dude, there's no other room in the fucking place. By the way, I lived in a 525 square foot, studio.
Yeah.
I mean, and I got it all. I had the bed, I had a computer, I had a shipping station, I had a balcony too. Oh, I love the balcony.
Oh, nice.
Unbelievable. It's a whole story how I got the apartment. It was like I had to go through hell and back to get that, man. Sue, if you're listening, I love you. I told my friend Sue Lape, she was my preceptor in college. So that means that like someone who was older than you was on the floor, and like, they were like the floor mom, if you will. So, we've kept in touch all these years. And so if you're listening, I love you. So I tell her, much like Seinfeld, like Kramer would do this.
Yeah.
Hey, Sue, my lease is ending in Hoboken. And you know how I'm working at Leland's in Long Island? I want to live in the city. I want to live like really in the village. How about like, is it cool if I come in, and crash for like a night or two at your place? Just because like, it's kind of annoying. I live in Jersey. So like, I didn't really have like, I wanted to like, it was very hard to get an apartment.
Right.
Dude, I lived there for like 36 days.
Yeah. And
I remember she would like text me. She's like, you get a place yet? You get a place yet? You get a place yet? And then I remember I thought I had this place, and this is what happened. I think they definitely saw I was dead serious. So I had another apartment at 184 Thompson. And I mean, I don't think it's the same today. It was ultra competitive to get a place. Like if you had all the money in the world, it didn't matter, of course.
Right.
I did not. I had a little money, and I wanted to live in a cool place. So you can imagine I didn't have that many options. So I had my money ready. So without exaggeration, I commit to the place. I'm like taking the subway over or walking over to the to the management office, like ready to give them my check. Like I'm having dreams of parties in my place. I can't wait. And they're like, they come over like, we have some really bad news. What do you mean? How could there be bad news? I just got a place. I don't really understand. They're like, well, actually, that's the bad news. You don't have a place.
Oh, God.
I said, oh, no. You must be talking about someone else who doesn't have a place, because that's why I came here. I have my money and I have a place. I mean, Lou, I don't know if anyone has like a little Incredible Hulk in you.
Yep.
But like, I didn't have any control. My eyes got like, they must have been like really freaked the fuck out.
Oh, I can see it.
So basically, listen, I don't think I really understand you. I'm like, you have to give me an apartment. I've been living in my friend Sue's place. I know you don't care, but like, I can't do this anymore. And you told me I have a place.
Yeah.
So literally we went back there, and like the place was like a little more expensive. I'm like, I don't have a budget for this. They're like, we'll give it to you. We think you should just get it. I'm like, thank you.
Wow.
To be fair, it wasn't like a huge discount. It was like, I'm making it up. I mean, at the time, it was still a couple grand for an apartment, but like, instead of it being $2,000, it mid've been like, $1,880 or something like that. And I had a budget of $1,875. Yeah. She's like, you can have it for $1,875. I'm like, really? She's like, yeah. We just don't want you here anymore.
We don't want to deal with you.
Well, I mean, it's like I'm living in my friend's place. I'm certainly not going home to my parents' house in central New Jersey. I sooner would have lived on the street. And so that's how my apartment in the village came to be. Meanwhile, we didn't really talk about Bleecker Trading at all, so we'll try to finish up real quick.
Yep.
Fantastic place to check out, in the future. It's not really like set up right now for retail, but like what I really liked about it and some of the content that Ben's producing for Vintage Breaks that we're going to cut, put out there on Just Collect and on Vintage Breaks social media channels. Literally, we were just a couple dudes. We had some basketball on in the background, opening up some packs, acting like a bunch of card nerds and kids, really just kind of like taking a break from the daily grind. Yep. And it's very evident on camera. And it was cool. It was a good time.
I like it. They should do a podcast.
Yes, they should. But I have a feeling if I ask them, they might say, hey, Leighton, do you want to do one? And, as my wife likes to remind me of, I don't have extra time. I actually don't have enough time for anything. But I have enough time.
We can get them started.
Absolutely. So once again, folks, thanks for tuning in today to Leighton's Loft, our weekly podcast here on the Just Collect and Vintage Breaks network. In terms of the prizes, I would say let's have the, whoever it's, whether it be Sam or John, give away the other 6. First place already went to Kenny.
Yep.
The other 6 prizes are up for grabs. And folks, if you don't know already, we have a new event running, and all the details will be up at event.vintagebreaks.com in the coming days. But if you want to see the promos right now, just check out our website, vintagebreaks.com. At the top, just scroll down slowly, and you'll see our bonuses are going to range from, sometimes we have 7 or 8, sometimes we have 10 or 12. Depends how crazy the guys get when I'm not here. So that is our show for today. It was a lot of fun today, Lou. It went really fast.
Had a blast. A lot of stuff going on. Didn't fit it in. So we'll be here next week, right, to finish up.
Absolutely. We will be back next week at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for tuning in today, all.